Hey, it's James here at the EverLearner. What I want to show you in this quick tutorial is how to think about the exam date, the start date and the end date for each group. So previously we've created this group 1. Let's have a little edit of it in here. We see here we've got all the details in here. We've got the teachers, we've got the students. So here are all of our smashing students down here. Here are all of our teachers. But as you may recall, we put in some exam dates. We put in some start dates and some end dates. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to do some editing in here. Okay, so we just click. Let me just be clear what I did there. All I did was I hovered over the date here, and I just do a single click, and it opens this up for me. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the exam. I'm going to realize actually the exam date I got wrong. Okay, it won't let me go backwards because I've got my end date on the 16th. So I got it back wrong by a day, and I'm going to put it on the 18th. On the start date. That's already started. We can't change that one. Okay, that one's fixed because they literally start on that date. And then on the end date, I'm going to say, right, well, I want them to be finished the day before the exam, so I'm going to move that to there. And as a result, we hit save and we are done. Now, a couple of things. If you think about the start date, that is effectively the time at which you want the students to do their first activity. You want it to be as early as possible. So if you create the group, it really should be then and there. Okay, if you know that a group aren't going to have access for 2 weeks, then fine, put it 2 weeks down the line. But basically, you want it to be then and there. And the reason that is because as we track the data for the students, which I'll show you in another tutorial, it relates to how much they do per unit of time. So of course, we've got here, something like 3-4 weeks here in this period of time. The site is going to suggest to the student the rate at which they should be learning to complete that course and that qualification. So that's important. So the exam date we literally mean is the exam date for when the exam is, and the end date should be before that. Now, the way I do it personally is I set that up, assuming I've got sort of a big chunk of time, I set that for 2 weeks before their exam. So the last 2 weeks is simply rounding things off and tidying things up. You can always obviously re-enroll them through another group and repeat it. Of course you can. But in terms of the end date, have that before the exam date, and a period of time is best. I've just gone for a day here, but you might want to consider slightly longer. Okay, so yeah, if you realised you wanted to change the start date, okay, you thought, I've got it wrong. What you'd need to do therefore is delete this enrolment here. Are you sure you want to unlink this item? Let's unlink it, and then what I'd do is I'd enroll it again. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to look at that Spanish course, and this is how I can change the start date here. Okay, so this is how I can change the start date. I can say, okay, I don't want it to be till Saturday, and then I can change that. I can do all of my other work. So I can put, I think the exam date was then, and I think the end date, if I remember rightly, was then. Okay, so now that's how you would edit the start date if you felt you'd got that wrong. You'd simply unhook it and reconnect it in that way. Anyway, I hope that helps. All the best.